Good morning, traders. Welcome to daily webinar. Let's start. We're going to start as usual here. We're going to remove all of this because it's a new week. For those of the traders on YouTube, I posted a video on last week showing you what the group is about and what we do in here. And if you would like to join us, because we have a course coming up at the end of this month, I'll be starting a live course, but you can join us even in the installment program. If you want to know more details, go watch that video. It's only 7 minutes. Let's start. Dollar index. We're still in the consolidation. We haven't confirmed anything. All we have is this. And this one is not really corrective. If you notice, it's very aggressive. So if it moves up as aggressive as this, there's a high probability we're going to break that top. Now, the only thing that will change that dynamic is if for any reason we start to see this pulling back before breaking the top, pulling back really deep. So you might end up with a flat here. That's one possibility. Go back here, and then we will assume we're making a flat here. That's one simple one. There's many ways how this thing could develop, right? So what we're going to work with is trading back to this level, assuming that this is going to go really fast, right? We're assuming that the impulsiveness of this is going to continue, but this could be the first impulse in a bigger correction. I'm not sure how we would look at this sharp wave here, because we have a few sharp waves in the past. I think we have this as the expanding flat. That turned out to be correct. This one we put is this flat. I'm not sure that is correct because this is pretty sharp. So we'll come back and look at whether we want to put this together. That's an option. The second option would be, well, what happens here now, right? So in this piece, if this does come back, and it will have to come back sharp like this, if at any point this drop here, we'll assume that this is the flat, we go back up. If it continues to go up and break this top, it will probably be a buy, but you'll have to be very careful with that buy. Simply because you have this sharp wave here, right? Every time you get a sharp impulse in front of a correction, there is another one coming. So we have this, and we can't put anything in the back because you're assuming this one is this, right? So there's a good chance that this could go there, come back here, and then go. So if you're going to buy the break of the top here, the risk is very high. Sorry, guys. So what I would do is let it break the top and make a flag. Now, once you get a flag above the top, that confirms more upside. But if it's going to drop suddenly, then you might not even get the trade. Let it drop, we buy. So we'll just have to wait for that. And remember, the closer you come to the top of this, the higher the risk that it could drop. So buy setups at the top, they would be very dangerous. All the buy setups should be more to the bottom. Let's go. Silver. It's coming down. We got this. We broke that low. So we have to be careful. There's a running flat in the making because we never break the top. And because we didn't break the top, we can't assume that's a flat. So we have to assume is that this. I thought this would come to about this level and then go back up. That would be a flat. If they come here, they still have to go back up. That would be a running flat. And if we get a very big running flat like that here, we're likely going to retest the low. Right? If you get one like that at the top there, there's a very high probability that this becomes the flat and we actually retest the low, right? Because the running flat here is a good indication that you're going to make one more impulse down. Now, any sell at the bottom here is possible only if you get a really good flag. So the bottom here, now that we've broken the low, if you get a flag, we sell, but that sell, you'll have to be very cautious because at any point that sell could stop and go back up. So you would have to trade that sell as a very high risk trade. But you can still take it because, you know, they could go very far. And then eventually you get this, and that would still be the running flat, right? One sharp move, and then it's going to be the sell. I am not sure we're going to go that far, but we'll keep track of this and see. And if the deeper it comes in, there is the higher probability we break this low before we go back up, right? If we break that low, a lot of questions will open. This would not, I don't think, you know, this would either be a bigger correction of its own. Yeah, we can treat it, or all of this could be part of a bigger correction. So we leave both of those open. Let's see what happens when it comes down. Wait for a flag, sell. As of now, that's the only thing we're doing, waiting for a flag to sell or a pullback to sell. So I'll put this as the flag is too early. We'll wait for the pullback first. We had a very sharp impulse. So nothing to go with that. It's just one super sharp impulse. We drop, we pull back really sharp, and now you're coming down. So we've got a flat in here. That was a sell setup. It dropped, it did pull back here. So we would have to decide whether we put that as a flag, which means any flag here will sell. Any deeper correction here would go with this flat, which means that would be the smaller internal one, and then we're going to drop. Now, if we come back very low into this, we'll go back up and drop. If we stayed within this level, there's a higher probability for upside. So I think even if this goes back up and drop, which is what we think silver would do, silver could still break the low, but gold doesn't break the low. So if we get a buy setup here, we'll take it, which means if it makes an impulse and a flag up, it makes an impulse and a flag here, we'll take that trade for one more impulse up. We'll move the stop and see if it breaks it. I don't think it's going to break out. It could only break out if we look at this as the flat. So there's a possibility for that. The higher probability is they'll come here and drop again. So let's see how this, but any buy setup on this, we will take it, right? Buy setups on the silver we'll be more careful with. Let's go here. Okay, so we're consolidating here. We're assuming that that is a flat. So now you can say, well, they're consolidating, which means we're going to get this somewhere in the future, right? We're going to get that sharp move down somewhere in the future. We're probably making a more complex pattern. So any buy here you can take. I'll prefer they break the low first. I'll prefer the signal comes back, break the low, and then we look for a buy setup. We could get something like this. We could get that and then go, making it a long drawn out running flat. But a buy here would be a good idea. So if it breaks the low, go back up, we buy. Selling it here is a bad idea. Euro coming down very nice. So let's take these out. Let's see if we have anything to match that one. We don't have, well, you have this. You can make an argument of whether this does match this one. It's a little bigger, but you can go with it. We do have this. We were expecting a running flat from here when we had that piece, but then it came lower. So you can still make an argument there's a correction that this could drop and break the low. So any sell setup here will take it because the possibilities it can go. Go to the 1 hour. It's not quite clear whether this is going to drop because we do have some sharp moves in this. This one is relatively sharp. I think we can go with this as an expanding flat, a smaller version of, you got a sharp move here, you come down. This comes down, wait for a sharp pullback there. So there is a sharp pullback probably going to happen. We can see it in the dollar index. We can see it in gold, silver, and probably you have this pullback here too. So this gives you the pullback. We'll get a sell setup. This might come much later. And if they go very aggressive, the way they're going, just like the dollar index is moving aggressively, we would likely break this low again. Now, the only way that dynamic changes is if instead of going down, they consolidate here bigger. Any big consolidation in here would mean we're making a bigger flat. Any reversal to the top would very correctively would mean we're making a flat at the top here. So with 1, 2 pieces, you can't decide. A flat itself needs 3 pieces, right? 3 waves. You only have 1, 2 waves, and 1 wave is still in the making. So there's a lot more that needs to happen here in this time frame to decide what the pattern is going to be. But for trading sake, what we can do is wait for this to come here. I don't want this sell here because we have that sharp move. So I want this to come here, go back up, and then that would be the trade. Well, you would say, what if it becomes a long drawn out running flat? You have to break the low and make a flag. If I'm going to go for a long drawn out running flat, let it break this low, come here and make the flag under the low. That would become a sell for me. I would assume that that is becoming a long drawn out running flat. So as of now, it's not a long drawn out running flat. It's still a regular flat that is in making, or a running flat, but a smaller version. Pound. Let's take these out. I think we can make an argument that this does have a small flat here. There was a pullback, so you can put that as a small flat, or you can put this as a flat of its own, and that's a smaller one in there, which means we still have this, right? But this is really sharp. So when you get it that sharp, you'll consider whether this could be a smaller, a 15 minutes flag correction, for example. See? On the 15 minutes, you'll see it more corrective than sharp. But we will still leave it open on the 1 hour that it's a possible running flat in the making. Normally in the running flat, I want to see this inside that, not outside of it. Right? That's one of the most important things, is that the correction is inside. It could happen when it's outside, especially in this case, but most times you want it inside. So what we wait for here? I think we could sell it. We could sell this and assume even if it's going to make a sharp move up, it's going to be a longer one. So if you have a flag here for a sell, and I think we're getting a 15 minutes flag for sell, we can sell. I don't think this is going to come down. I said this is corrective enough, right? You can see that's 1, 2, 3. It's corrective enough. That is relatively sharp. Put the entry under the low. Don't keep your stop above this one. Keep your stop above this stop. And the reason is because this could get more complex. The reason is you probably have this behind it, so you'll have to get the hell out of it. So you don't want to get tagged on a 15-minute trade and taken out on the 15. You don't want it to do this and then do this and then drop. You don't want that to happen. So you really want to see they either do this. And by the way, you don't want a slow move down. So you want a fast move down from here. We're looking for something that moves fast, right? Something that moves fast. This was smaller correction. So if it moves fast enough, we go into trade. If it's slow, if it stays here for a long time, it's still a sell, right? It will still be a sell, but we'll wait and see. If it breaks and it starts to go back up, we'll look for the exit strategy, which means if it comes here, drop to a certain degree, you didn't get break even, it starts to go back up. Any flag here will be the exit because we'd assume they're making that sharp one, right? And then we'd look for the sell setup again. So these moves down are sharp. On the case of the pound, do we think it's going? The pound has actually made an all-time low here, right? This is an all-time low line. So I don't necessarily think we're going to go break the low again. We could do that, but I don't know that they're going to do that. So a lot depends, and this is your impulse, how deep into that we come. If we come back to about, especially then how this comes, right? That will depend. If this starts to correct back upwards, like break the low and then go back there and come here and start to correct upwards like that, coming back to this top, we'll get a flat here for upside. Just like this one, right? It didn't go back to the low. It made a flat for upside. This will just be a bigger version of that. If for whatever reason this comes way down here and then start to correct here, we'll come back to the bottom. We'll go back up, make a new low. A new low is not a problem. Breaking the all-time low by this doesn't really mean anything. It just informs you that it's the lowest point, but that doesn't mean that's a turning point. We could break this low by 1,000 pips before we actually turn. We're talking about an all-time chart, the yearly chart. So this thing could drop, make a flag drop, make a flag drop, make a flag drop, and then turn. But it will turn, and it will turn very soon. And it's not a case you're just guessing. I think I've seen this one remember when we were in the Oz, I think it was the Aussie Swiss that was making all-time low. Well, the guys, this thing is going to turn, it's going to turn really fast. And some traders starting to, as soon as it break the low, buy. And they actually did well, like this. If you broke the low here, you bought, right? That's what we did. They bought. But they kept all these trades, and this thing keep dropping, making flags drop, and they keep keeping the trades for the big move. And the big move did happen. Thousands of pips. So guess what happened? By the time this is finished, the account was blown. So you don't want to keep them. You want to get a hell out of them. Trade daily, trade daily, trade daily. When you pick one of this, if you pick one of these here and you get it, and you want to keep that one, put it to break even. But when you see the big turn, come and get rid of it. Because a deep correction like this means they will go deeper. So why waste time? You will get back into the trade. There was no need to keep it. Now, pound on this all-time low will eventually make either a very, very deep correction upwards, I'm talking about thousands of pips upwards, or it will make an impulse, very big impulse going back up. So either way, it's good trading upside. But if it starts to go lower, that doesn't mean you can't make a new low, right? So we'll see how this goes. This is moving aggressive right now, which is strange. Because you have an impulse up and an impulse down. That's all we have. Minimum, we need a correction, another impulse to at least get a flat. Or a correction here and an impulse down to at least get this flat. And then we can decide if we're going to make a new low or if we're going to take off to the upside. So I think this week will tell us. This week we should finish one pattern. We don't have any pattern. We have 1, 2. This week we should complete that is one higher pattern on the 1 hour or the 4 hour. Well, I'll say 4 hour because these are 1 hour patterns. On the 4 hour, and then we will know, at least sense of which direction. Because that will make your life easier to trade. The next impulse, either going up or going down, you'll know how to trade it. So for today, I think markets are very, very quiet, but you can get a trade here. It could still move, very slow but sure. So that would be a trade setup. I'll put it as aggressive sell because we're at the 15 minutes. Aussie. Okay, this is already gone. We just broke the low, so nothing to do here anymore until you get a correction. And I mean a correction that is something like this. I'm at the 50 minutes. You need an hour correction. We just broke the low. We're on the daily. This is what we're doing. We had this impulse and we're coming down. We're coming down really deep. We're almost, I don't know, if you put a fib, you'll see you're almost more than 3/4. This would be, yeah, you're at 668, 61.8% of the impulse you've already retraced. We're about close to get about 78, 75, 78% of that impulse. Now it can still turn to go, but the deeper they come in here, the more we'll be thinking flat rather than upside, right? The more we'll be thinking this is a big flat for another up move, for another down move, sorry. Now, what if they break the low? Then we will go back and see, if there was anything in the past we could match this to. On this one, no, absolutely nothing. Nothing in the past. This was the top. There's nothing here in this down move that you could put that with. So this is an absolute impulse separated by itself. It's not in any pattern in the past. It belongs to whatever is happening here. Either this is the first impulse for a really big move up or for a bigger flat. So if you look at it this way, pretty much like this, right? So this was your first impulse down. That was all your correction up. And then they drop, they do that. You get this flat. So we're coming here. I don't think we're going to make one of this. We're not going to repeat that beyond the low. So I'm not expecting them to do this and then do that and then drop, right? That's not the expectation here. Although it's possible, but that is not the expectation. The expectation is the worst case scenario. If you're going to go lower, is they'll probably come around here, go back up to the top, and we'll probably see a higher move up and then come here. So we'll have more of a flat like this, right? If we're coming down back. And the deeper they come into the higher probabilities you're going to get this. So we're going to get something like a 1, 2, 3 here, like a 1, 2, 3 here, breaking this low back again. And if we're stuck in this, you know where this came from. This came all the way from the top here. If we have this here and we have this here, I think we can already know that you're going to get a similar one here going up there, and then this thing is going to come lower because we'll get to this level, we'll get back to that level. But these, you see how many years they take to form? It's not like that's going to happen today, right? But we can be in this range here for a long time. It all depends on whether this makes the similar pattern like we see across here, right? We've got the impulse already, and we're starting, we have a part of this. So it all depends, and this, I think, is corrective in relationship to this. There's no question about that. It's very corrective. So it all depends on where and how this starts to give us this next impulse. We can trade it down, but we'll have to make sure we get flags to trade down, and then be cautioned at every point that this could start to go back up. This would be a nice trade. Now, let's suppose you didn't get a lot of that because you weren't sure, you didn't know what it's going to do. But now you see this and you see this, then this is a trade you don't want to miss. A single impulse like that could double your account, if you understand it properly and you know how to trade it, right? If the confidence in taking buys there would be amazing. The risk to reward is going to be amazing because when it moves from a flag, it moves away really far. Most of those impulses might happen during a news event or something, but it's going to happen. You can double your risk in most of those trades because the confidence in a perfect flag going up to give you a perfect impulse would be easy, especially if you have this bigger correction behind you for that impulse going up. Now, the first trade is not the one you should put that risk on because you don't know whether the first trade is going to be the one that starts the impulse. I mean the first buy. But after that, every consecutive buy would be the one that could give an impulse like that. So if you understand how to trade this, what if it does this, which means if it goes really strong after coming really deep? Wouldn't that be amazing? And you can just that single impulse. This single impulse will give you about 20, 30, 40 trades in it on the 1 hour. I'm on the weekly here. You'll probably get more than that. How long did that take to happen? You can see how much months you're going to be trading in one direction. It's going to make your life easy. This is from March 20 to February 21. That's about a year, right? So you're going to be trading for 1 year almost in one direction with huge impulses in it. Knowing it, right? That doesn't mean this correction we can't trade down, or some of these bigger correction in the daily we wouldn't trade down. We'll take smaller trades down. But every time you get a buy setup, you can assume it's going to be a huge impulse, and that'd be amazing. So if you understand that and you know how to trade it, the potential is you could on a single year more than double your account. Or most of our traders could double your account in a single year. So understanding patterns is very important for you to get a bigger picture, and then you can trade the small bit. Like we're trading this down, we're trading this down. If you get a sell setup here, you could take it. Right? We were selling it from the top coming down. We sold in New Zealand last week, and we didn't get the sell setup here, but you can, if we get a sell setup here for a buy, we'll take it. So should we take the sell if we get it? Yes, you can do that, but you have to wait for there was a small running flat here. I don't know if any one of you saw this. If you sold the running flat, put it to positive in a couple of minutes more, wait for that to drop a little more, and then put it around. Remember, once you break the low, The risk has just increased. So any sell here now would be a bigger flat or a bigger flag before we sell. And I think the same should go here, but any reversal will take. I think this will break the low as well. You can make an argument there is a small running flat here, right? You can go with this small running flat here. This was a smaller flag of its own. So you can go with a trade here if you want, with a stop here, and just to break this low, that trade. So you're putting an entry under here, you're risking this. How deep this goes? Well, I don't know. If you get it here, you get 0.5. If you get it, you get 1 to 1. A little more. What is the second line? That's breaking the all-time low. That's not the all-time. That's breaking the low of the previous low from the move down, right? That's breaking this low. I think we can break that low, and that might be very significant if we break that low. Now, this is the only one. Unlike the Aussie, this does have a chance of thinking running flat, right? You can make an argument for this piece to be a running flat or expanding flat here, because this one came down really slow. There was this correction in here and so. So you can make an argument for that and say, well, what if this comes down here? Break the low. Can we look at this whole piece as a 1, 2, and then a 1, 2, 3 here, right? Like this is a bigger one. So this would be a 1, 2, 3, and this would be the bigger correction. Come here. And can this go back up here too? Well, if it breaks the low like that, how deep would it go? This is the low of the previous pattern. This was your previous correction, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, very similar structure like the Aussie. But this one has more correction, which means I would assume this is the B part of it. If you look at this as a single pattern, let me just put it like this. Today is a lot of holiday. There isn't anything happening. You don't need to rush to trade. You can look at some deeper analysis. So if we looked at this as the bigger structure, right? There's a 1, 2, 3 here. 2 very sharp impulses. And this had a correction here. Then it dropped. And if we assume that this is the running flat, expanding or running flat, depending on whether you break the top, you guys will figure that out. And this drops deeper back into the bottom here. Then this would be like the B part of it because it had more correction. This could even drop here, make another correction and drop again, repeating a 1, 2, 3 structure like that. After which we're definitely going to go back up and repeat this 1, 2, 3 structure too. See? Well, this isn't going to be a sharp move up. Well, there will be sharp impulses and then deep corrections in it and then sharp impulse. Because it will, or it could go like the CAD did, one sharp impulse upwards. Remember the CAD when we think it's going to be a 3-wave structure turned out to be a single sharp impulse. So we can just buy this until we see corrections. And the 1 hour we know when they're turning, we see the corrections, we trade it the opposite direction. A 4-hour correction is a sell setup we're getting in the 1 hour. So if this starts to happen, these trades would be amazing. Now we still have a lot to do here before that happens, but that trade would be amazing. So I think the sell here today is possible. The two patterns doesn't have to be very, they don't have to be the same. They can be alike, but eventually you'll get the bigger picture is the same, right? So on a 15, yeah, I think we can make an argument for a small running flat here. But this was very corrective coming down. This was sharp, this was sharp. This one was a smaller correction of its own. And this is coming. So you put the entry here, you put the stop here. Now market is really, really, really slow. So if you're going to trade today with New York close and then Asia close, Canada close, maybe London is still working. So you might get some slow moves. It might not go very fast. If you're not going to be trading very long, you wouldn't have the chance to come to the computer very often to check. Probably don't take it. But the probability of this breaking the low is very high now. At least breaking this low. And whether it's going to happen today or not, I don't know. Now, what if they started consolidating? Instead of dropping, they started consolidating this range more? Well, we'll go with a flat here. We'll let it drop, pull back, drop again. We'll go with that running flat. But you will get break even in this trade. If you keep your stop above the impulse, which is above the running flat, you'll probably get break even in the trade. You'll take it off a break even. So we can put this as an aggressive sell here now. Put an entry here because it's already there. Put a stop above this here and go with an aggressive sell. Yen. Did we break the top? Not as yet. That's a problem. We need to break this top before we turn. We want the big sell, but we definitely need to break that top. It's going up like a headache. It's literally going up as a headache. It's not giving you the trade we want. You're coming down sharp. I think we're going to come down some more. We have a sharp one here. So I don't know if this is enough. Yeah, this could be enough. You notice how slow they go up, really slow. So that could be enough. And this will just climb up slowly again. Maybe make another one here and then break the top. I think we ignored this. And when they break the top, we start to look for sells. The sell to break the low on the New Zealand is a much more better than this. I'll just let this go break the top. And when we break the top, we'll start to look for sell setups. And let's see if that triggers a sell, because this move is going up really slow. CAD. Okay, so we wanted it to come down this much for that running flat. How far did it come? No, that is not it. Take this off. This is not this one. I don't think it is, because we got another pullback here. It's not big enough. That's one. This would have been a break-even trade. Put it here, see. That trade is an aggressive sell. It would have been a break-even trade. Aggressive because you know you're only looking for this. I still think we're correcting here, so I'll take this off. This is more of a correction happening here. You can see the consolidation, and this would come much later. I don't think it's this one. Even if it's that one, then the buy is not a great idea. So we're thinking that this here could be some kind of an expanding triangular pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can't confirm that either. We don't know that for sure, because all will depends on whether we break out of this top. If we stayed in this a very long time, we will change it to a smaller flat and a bigger flat, right? And that is possible. Changing of the structure is possible, right? The patterns, the basic concept, the way we look at patterns is we don't determine what the patterns are. We follow the patterns. Elliott wave determines that the pattern needs to be this, it needs to be a triangle, and then it needs to alternate and be a flat. And I believe that is stretching it too far. Don't tell the chart what to do, follow what the chart is doing. And by following, you'll be in the safer side. So we saw this and we said, okay, that's a flat, this should go up, and it did go up. Then we see this and we said, okay, once that go up, the potential is you can make another one here, then go, because this could belong to something else. Turn out it did come down back, but that's not what we got. But now we're saying, okay, well, can we look at these three sharp impulses and assume that that's a triangular looking pattern? Yes, they fit the requirements for it, but that doesn't mean it is that. All depends on whether this breaks the top. Because if this stays here and consolidate, then we'll do what we did with this one, is assume that you're making one more here, and then this to go back to that. So you get a flat here, you get a top there, you get a bigger flat here, and then you go up. And that's it. Follow what it's doing, read what it's doing, and then trade what you see, right? Once you get a confirmation. Don't determine that this is it and that's it, that it has to be that, right? Because you're making forecasts, and that forecast will change as things change in the structure. We're following it, determine what we see, what it could be, what it could do in the future. And most times you get it right. You see, even when we thought this was the flat and it's going to break the top, it did go break the top. So we could have said, okay, well, that's it. But then we said, no, wait, we still have to see what they're doing here. They still have to confirm that that is it. So the downside, yes, it worked good. That sell was perfect. And then it turned out, wait a second, this sell was good. This sell would have given you break even the worst case. Or if you do follow the rules we follow, then you'd probably be done. You re-enter to it. Or now you can say, hey, wait a second, why is this not going so aggressive? Can we look at this as something else developing? I think if this was the flat, let's assume for a second, I would want this to take off. But it's not taking off, it's consolidating here. So I'm saying, okay, wait a second. What if we're making a more complex pattern? If we're making a more complex pattern, then we need to see what this is doing. Right now, there's a sell here. Can it come back to this low? That is possible. It can come there, it can go back up. We'll look at a flat here, right? If we get a flat there, right? So if you look at this one, if this comes here, it's going to go there, it's going to come back here, because I think this would be the big part of it, right? So we'll come here, we'll go back up something like this. And there's a good chance somewhere here. We don't have to break the top very far. Most time they just break the top slightly, come back here, give you a running flat, and then go. So if all of that happened and we're still inside of this one, if all of that happened, then we will assume that we're making a bigger flat there. If all of that happened, but we break through the top, which will be a buy setup still for the next impulse, and it breaks through the top, good for you, you'll have an amazing trade, right? You'll have an amazing trade, and then we'll confirm this pattern. The trade would either be a small trade or a break-even trade, and we'll confirm the second pattern. That's it. So now we have a sell setup here. Should we sell it? What's the risk to reward if you take a trade like this? If you take this trade, you're assuming that you'll go down like this, which is it will do this. That's the probability. It will probably come back here because there's one here. It'll probably drop again. You'll be there. You'll be in something like this. And then we'll get this up, we'll get this down, and then we'll have to go back up. So we'll look at all of this as a flat. You can go with this as a separate one here of its own, because I think this is the higher one. Even if we try to put this with this, well, then you'll get a 1, 2, 3 here too. All of these are not the best trade. The best trade is when you complete that, get this one to go up with a confirmation for a buy here. But if you're going to sit here today and all of that will take a day to form, and you have nothing else to do, and you want to test your skills, here's the trade you can take. And I said test your skills because I just showed you how messy it can go. And if you're lucky, if you want to test your skills and you're lucky, then it just drops like this. Come here and then start to go back up. And this would be enough of a flat, right? That would be enough of a flat. 1, 2, 3. Now, I don't think it's going to do that. That's why I said if you want to test your skills and you know the rules of how you're going to trade this, you could use the last impulse, right? Pretty high risk, but you could use the last impulse here because these are pretty sharp impulses in there, right? You could use the last impulse and be aware that you might get a few smaller pullbacks in it. So you have to use a stop here. Trade is risky, very risky, because you're trading a smaller correction in a bigger correction, in a bigger correction, in a bigger correction. That's where you are. So this drops here, start to pull back like that, don't panic. It could drop again, it started to pull back, put it to break even. It drop again, move your stop to take profit, because that is about all you can get. Now, the worst case is you'll try to get break even if you know how to get out for break even. We do have rules on how you should get out for break even if you follow those rules. So I'll put this very aggressive sell so that you could just test your skills. Not a trade I would recommend you to take. Dollar Swiss, okay, it did break out. Take that out. That's where we were trading on Friday. Take that out there. It pulled back, it went back up. So I think we're making another flat. We got this flat here. And I think we're making another one here. This would be the first wave down. We're probably consolidating it. This is going to come down to. We'll probably go back up, come back down. All of that could happen today. I'm under 15 minutes. And then make another one up. The depth of this one tell me we're going to have another one up. Why are we making so much flats there? Oh, we're about to end this structure, right? All these flats is about to end this piece. This 1, 2, 3. So you get another small flat here. You kind of break the top again. You can make another one here, kind of break the top again. And then if we see this, we're looking for this. This would be perfect. If we get that, that would be perfect because we know how to trade that. Better yet is if we get that just in front of a news event, right? This trade could be exactly one drop, right? We'll finish this flat because we're looking at 1, 2, 3, finish this flat, and then that will be upside. Right? That would confirm more upside. Now, if we confirm more upside, we could look at this as totally going to break not only this top, but totally going back to the bigger tops, right? Because we'll be breaking out of this structure totally, right? If this happens, if we get that piece there confirming, we not only break this top, we might eventually go and break that top, right? So we would look at this as a 1, 2, 3, a deeper correction. Whatever the hell this piece is, we'll have to go back to the contracting flat in there, and this one just takes off. Or we'll figure out whatever we can with this piece. But this could be a takeoff to go. And then you'll be in something like this. Whatever that is too. Right? We'll figure that out. So if we get that flat, we could be thinking much, much more upside. Should we put this as an equivalent with this? Nah, not it. I don't think that's it. And I don't think it's a slope climb either. We'll have to figure out what it is. It's not a slope climb either. I wouldn't go with a slope climb. So we'll wait to see. We still have to figure out that whole big structure. That is still not clear. So let's go back here and get the trade. Take one piece at a time. We know what's happening at the top there and we'll see. So we'll get this flat here, which means we can wait for this sell, or you can test your skills at the top there. Right, the skills at the top is very small. Selling inside the structure is a waste of time. The range is too small. So let whatever this is doing do, either a running flat, expanding flat, running flat, whatever it is, and then look for that trade up. Remember, this would be a single small push, and then it's going to be the downside. EuroCAD. Okay, we have a sharp move down, a sharp move up, and we can assume that this here now is the consolidation. Do we have anything for this? Is this, whether we look at this as a separate one? Could be possible. I don't think it belongs to all of this. All of this belongs to itself. This could be just a separate flat of its own here, deeper one. So you get a slow move down, you get a flat, you get a slow move down. You could make an argument for running flat here. Right, kind of that drop. At this point, if this is the B wave, this could go back up. See this slow pull back here, and this one could go back up like that. So there's a good chance this could go back up here and then come down. It's a big flat at the bottom, so buying it now will be pretty risky. You'd have to look for something else to get in that trade. So let's go and yeah, probably don't trade it. Just leave it. Even if it's going to go up, let it break this top first and then make a flat. You could make an argument that this is kind of making a flat, go there, come here, and then go. Or it could do this, come here, and then drop one more, and then go. This sell is not a good idea. The buy here is not a good idea. Any flag above this top would be a good buy. So we wait. We just leave this piece, let it tell us whether it's trying to go back up, and then we go. But the upside is very, very likely. We don't have a buy set up in any case. Euro yen. So in the big picture, we're anticipating that this might go break the top, because we think this could be the running flat. If we're wrong about that as a running flat, then this deep pullback here is really strange. It's really strange to have, if this was your first impulse down, to have such a deep pullback into that, because that means you're making another flat. Remember when we had this deep pullback, we knew we were making a flat for upside. Turned out to be a really big flat, but it turns out for a flat for upside. So I don't think we're repeating that here. I think this could go up. We don't have an upside as yet. What we have is this and this. We could put those two as a running flat. I think we could do that. So there's a sell setup that could form here, break the low, and then we'll see if it reverses. Now, do you have a risk to reward if you're trying to sell that on the trade? Let's see. Nope, you don't. And you could make this a bigger one. I think you'll put it with this one here. That there. Or it could be a separate one. I think that could be a separate one. This piece has a separate one here. See the smaller one here? That's a separate flat there. And then this drop, go back up. This is going to make another flat there. This is not going to drop immediately. This will do whatever it has to do, go back up there, make this flat, and then drop. I don't think it's reversing as yet. So if it's reversing, we'll have to wait to buy outside of that structure. We'll leave it alone. This sell is no good because we have to go back up for that sharp impulse. If we're putting that sharp impulse with this, if we're putting this one with here, well, then yes, this sell might break the low, but all it needs to do is break that low. Your stop has to be here, your entry has to be here. Not a good trade. Not in this market, especially. Wait for a better trade. Okay, this is a good sell. You got to break even here. You're getting a good flag here for a sell. We should take this sell. Maybe we should take that sell and see. Let's see what the bigger picture is. Well, even if you're just correcting this, this is already a bigger one, right? See the crossover? We're already bigger here. So we're already making a correction into this. So we're literally saying that this is going to go deeper as the first impulse down. If we're going to break that top, if we're going to break the top, then this would have to make a big correction here before that happens. What if it's not breaking the top? Remember we had this here? What if this is the equivalent of this? So let's put this here for the equivalent. What if we're doing that? This is actually what we think it is. 1, 2, 3. And this is 1, 2, 3. And this is the flat there now in the middle. And this one is coming down for this. Well, let's sell it and see. Because that could be possible. And now this goes back up. That possibility we didn't exclude, right? Because this did go. It went a little higher than that one. We should say it's a little bigger. It still didn't break out as yet. We could still make that argument for that trade. So the sell here is a good idea to come back down. Now, if it is going to break out, let's assume this was all the correction we're going to break out, then we'll still have to make a big flat here. So we'll just get drop, break even, go back up, and then we buy. I think we sell it. There's this sharp move here also, like in the pound dollar. It could be, you could look at it as a separate flat of its own. It does have a correction here, separate flat of its own, or it's going to be a sharp move in the future, but this will drop first. So we can sell this, put an aggressive sell. All trades probably would be aggressive trades today because they're all pretty high risk. The market is slow. So once this drop, we can expect something like this. You can expect something like that. I think we can expect it to go back up, finish this, and then drop again. But if it keeps dropping, we'll stay with it. It means we'll go with this as a smaller correction, or somewhere deep down at the bottom we'll get. So I like this sell actually. Swiss yen, that was a good drop. Worst case, you would have got break even. It did pull back, and we're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, we're still in the middle of nowhere. So we still have to come and break this low at least. Let's see if it's coming to break that low. Not as yet. That is finished. If we make a flat here and we go back up, then we'll be stuck in a long drawn out correction. If this comes here and then go back up there, we'll be stuck in a long drawn out correction because this would be a flat here that comes down. You can end up with a bigger flat here, right? This goes back up there, give you this flat, then drop. What would that, where would that put us? If you get a bigger flat in here, right? Let's say this makes a flag, go back up there, then drop, you get this flat, you get a 1, 2, 3, you get a 1, 2, 3, you go back up for another 1, 2, 3 here, then come here, then go back up there. So this will be a bigger flat and then go. It's possible. So we can actually take that buy in a shorter time frame for a very small trade. I'm in the 4 hour, going to 1 hour. If you get a flat here, you can take this trade. It's one impulse. We're going to go for one impulse. Better to get it at the lower point. So go into 15, try to get it not there. You don't want it there where we have it. You want it to be much lower. So you want this to come back to this level here. Let this come back here, and then on the way up, if we get a flag, we buy this. We want this impulse. And then we sell. So let's see which comes. Right. This one, we'll put it to that there. So there will be a trade here to the upside. You have to wait for it to come here first, and then we look for a trade. So we're looking for a buy setup. New Zealand yen. I think we might break the low. There's a good chance we could break this low and then go. So we might have to move this a little here, and there's a very high probability now of breaking that. But as a matter of fact, you're getting a trade set up here right now. Let's look at that on the 15. Okay, you have to be cautious. Either this is the flat, and I think that is the flat, and this is going to drop, so you can put an entry under the low here. Don't use a stop here, because if it makes a bigger flat, which means if they come here and go back up like this for this one, there's a chance you can be taken out here. Use a stop above here. I just use a slightly bigger stop for that, just because it can do that, right? And we'll put a stop here, and we're going to go to break this low here. So it's a very nice trade because it's bigger distance to go, right? See, so you put a stop above there, you put an entry here. It's a 1-to-1 trade. Once it breaks the low, take the profit. If you're moving that, you can decide what you do with your risk. I don't think you should double the risk on this one. Just go with a 1-to-1 trade if it goes. So this would be a sell. Aussie yen. We broke the low already. We tried to sell this here. It did pull back. It did go. I think all of you, some of you close to break even. We all close to break even. That's right. And now it's dropping. It did drop. There was another flat there. If you're following it, you can make an argument of this one being this bigger flat here, that piece, or you could leave it like this, and you could leave this as separate flats of their own. This is a big flat. I think we'll go with that as a running flat drop. We broke the low. Nothing to do there. If it's going to go lower, wait for a flag. Right? If it's going to come much lower, wait for a flag. I think it's going to go lower. Do we need to break this low? Question is, do we need to break that? We don't need to. It just needs to come a little more, and then we're going up. It could go a little more. If you get a flag, you could sell, and then upside. So, yep, there's chance for at least 1 or 2 more trades to the downside and then the upside. So let's see if we get flags in the 1 hour. No, it's gone. This one is gone. The sell for this should have been here. This is the low. It's showing you the low. The sell should have been here. So we broke that low. There's no sense keeping that there. Now we wait for a setup. Or we wait for the buy. If it drops suddenly, we're waiting for the buy. euros. So, okay, finally, we're getting something here that is making sense, which is this one, right? Look for a sell setup because we will have to get this move down. So we get a sell setup here, and there's a good chance that all of this is part of the wave. So you come back here, you go back up there, and you come back here again for a bigger flat like this, and then you go back up. I think that's a high probability. At least one flat is in making, that is this one. This is a flat here. So I think this needs to pull back, at least to complete this one. So if we get a sell setup here, we take it. If we get a buy after that, we take it. Let's see if we can get a sell setup there. We don't have anything right now. At some point, you'll get an impulse and a flag, and then you take the trade. So you had this impulse and that flag. That was a good sell. We'll repeat the same thing here. We might not get such a big flag, and it might just get an impulse like this and a correction like this, and then take the trade, a small one, to break the low, because we haven't broken the top as yet. Right, then they might not break the top. If they break the top, go with a running flat, decide if you want to trade it. Euro pound. I mean, the sell wasn't bad. It did go back up, so we'll be looking for a bigger correction here. Okay. This is going to get really weird now. We're still in the correction, right? We're still crawling up of that thing. But the question is, how far does this go? This should come back here. And then how far does this go? First, it will have to break that up, most likely. I don't think this is an impulse down. If this becomes a bigger flat, then that is an impulse. It will have to go back there, come back here, make a bigger flat, and then go back up like this again, like this. See? So we thought this would be the big drop. Turned out not the big drop. We're consolidating more, and we'll be stuck here for a long time. Sorry, guys. This could be stuck here for a long time. But you can trade it. We're taking trades in it. So wait for a buy setup. Wait for this to drop some more. I think this is to drop some more. And then we're going to buy this up. It's a short trade. We'll get in, get out, take profit. Euro Swiss. We're going down, but not the way we expect to go down, right? We were expecting a sharp drop to the downside, and it's going down really, really, really slow. So are we making some kind of a weird running flat anywhere? Possible. Just have to wait for it. You can take every trade though. Let's see in the 15. Can we make an argument for a running flat like this? Assuming this was the impulse up, with an expanding flat in the middle. Or we're still in that running flat, which means this thing is not finished as yet. I wouldn't put it here because I think that's the corrective part. I'll put it with the first impulsive move up. Or we're just channeling down. That's the next option. You're just channeling down. So if I'm staking any sell on this, I want it to go back up and then give me a flag from here going down. So by the time you break the low, you can put it to break even. Selling at the bottom here in that sense, they'll tag you and drag you back up to the top. So or let it break out of this structure, leave the lower one, let it break out of the lower one, make a flag under it, and then we sell. We'll assume that the running flat is finished. Whatever it's doing there is finished. So it either breaks this low here, make a flag here, and then we start selling, or it goes back to the top somewhere here or somewhere here. And then we wait for a sell setup and take the trade downwards. That would be the better option. We don't have any trade in that right now. You're in New Zealand. Okay, so we're expecting one more down, or a number of down more, because it's not going up. So we'll assume that this is going to come down. Let's go here. Yep, we can do that. I think this is more of a flat here. You can go with a flat there. This piece here would be more of a flat. Either you go with it this way. You can make an argument for a 1, 2, 3 here. We break the top. Any sell setup we get will go. We already broke the top, right? So this here already broke the stop. I think it broke the top. So any sell setup you get here or here. Sorry, guys. My voice is going. Any sell setup we get here would be a sell. We'll take the trade. Now, the only way we buy this is it has to totally break out of the structure. So take this off. We'll be looking for whether any buy here would have to be breaking out of the structure totally and then making a correction to buy. But if we're making a more complex structure, we're going to come back to this low and then go. Any sell setup we get from the top will take. So I'll say let's wait for a sell setup. If we get a sell setup, we'll take that trade because this is very corrective in relationship to the others. It means we can be stuck here for a long time. Pound Swiss, that was the top. We did break the top. We turned, so it came down. You can go with this as a bigger flat. Right. If that was a buy, you close. I mean, it stayed there for a lot of hours. You had enough time to get a break even. We're getting a sell setup here right now. Like all the pound trades, you're getting a sell setup here. It might be slow. You'll have to keep a stop above the impulse. Right, then let's see how far that goes. It's going down very nice, right? You can see they make a big flat there. The big flat drop, make a correction, small correction, bigger flat drop. You might get 3 or 4 small corrections in it. So this is the first small correction. That's a good sell. Right? How deep can this go? Well, let's assume they're correcting this impulse. And this is the first impulse down on that correction. It can drop, make another one, drop, probably even make a bigger one again, drop, come back to about this level here, then go back up like this, and then come back here and go. Or it could drop to about this level, go back. How deep? I don't know. How far it's going to go, we don't know. If this is the first impulse of these corrections, could be pretty deep. Go back and look at how deep some of those corrections were in the bigger picture. Let's look at this one, for example, right? This was your first impulse up. Look at this correction here. This is your first impulse up. This could come much deeper, do this, do this, do this, and then go. Right, so can it go deeper? Here's where we are, and this is how deep it can go. You have about half to go, so. Right, so that's a good trade. Look at this one here, for example. This was your first impulse up. Look at the depth of that pullback, almost to the bottom. So if this is going to pull back that much, it will come here and then go back there and then do another one and then go. Go back up top, do another one, and then go. So some of these pullbacks are pretty deep. And if this is the first one going up, if we assume that this is what it's doing, we got a drop, we got a flat, we're dropping here. This is the final one. We're making a flat to go up. The sell is not a bad idea. You just have to be, worst case, you try to get break even. Because we don't know. That's the first impulse coming in. That's not all the correction. That's the first impulse and a much bigger correction, bigger than this correction here. Right? Because this would be the first impulse down. It's a good sell. Let's see what's the best entry we can get in it. Just put it under the low. It might not be finished. I think it is, but it might not. If you don't, you might be tempted to take that, but the risk is if you take that, it could drop here and go back up. Potentially that's a risk, so I wouldn't take it there. I'll let it prove it's breaking out. Keep a stop above the top. If you have to increase the risk to that, keep a stop above the top, and let's see how far we can get that trade to go. So we'll put it as aggressive sell. Why do I have that pound in the middle of nowhere? Bring that down here. And the CAD Swiss should go lower. And the CAD yen should be back at the top. Oh, we were trading the news. That's why I had to figure out it. So Euro, Aussie, pound, Euro, New Zealand. New Zealand CAD needs to be at the bottom here. Aussie CAD needs to be here. And pound CAD needs to be here. Okay. So we looked at Euro pound, we looked at Euro New Zealand, we looked at pound Swiss. Let's go. Now we're at pound New Zealand. And pretty much you have the same thing, right? Same structural problem. You're looking at this, go to the 4 hour, let's see where we are. So this was your big impulse up. Really, is that impulse has any chance to come back? No, I don't think so. I think we can go with this as a 1, 2, 3, and this one is going back up to the top. Now, it doesn't have to go back up as a straight line. It doesn't have to go back up fast. We could literally be going back up like this. What if we decide that is not it and well, it's doing something else? Let's take this off. Let's assume this is just making a bigger flat here. Like a 1, 2, 3 in this piece. Then we need to go back up like that, which doesn't make sense, right? This is very corrective by itself. If you look at it, right, you can always make that this is really, really corrective, and this was all. Right, this was a 1, 2, 3 here. I think that makes sense. I don't see this any other way. We'll have to wait until it finish. But I have a very strong feeling that this is going to go back up, really slow back to this top. And then all of this will become the bigger correction. Okay. We're trying to make a big correction to break this low, to come back to this low, because that's a sharp impulse down. But it's not dropping, right? This didn't become that impulse that should have been. We're correcting here. And if you're getting so much correction in here, right? If you're getting so much correction in here, then the chances are we will go back up to this top, and this will become a much bigger correction. Right? And then you get that sharp drop. That's the most likely, because we're not making an impulse to the upside either. So go back to the 1 hour. I think we have a good sell setup forming here. Let's take this off and see what the structure looks like. I want to see the internal of this structure. We need to break the top first, because if we look at this as a possible running flat, which I think it is, you've got that impulse there. You've got 1, 2, 3 here, come back here. If you get 1, 2, 3 here, you'll have to come back here. That will, you'll get this pattern, and we still have to go back up 1 more. Now, considering that this is a flat here, I wouldn't be surprised if they go there, come here, go back up, and then we get a drop. So, because if you do this, you need to go up sharp, right? You need to get that sharp move up, which we're not getting here. So there's a good chance that this is another flat. This is another 1, 2, 3. Come back to about this top here. Probably even break that top. Then come back here and then go. That would be a simple pattern. If this is making another flat, then don't sell it. It will probably come here, and this will be a bigger 1, 2, 3. We'll go back up there, come back here, and then it will be a much bigger pattern than that. So just leave it alone. This sell here is not a good idea, unless it breaks that up first. So we'll stay out of this one. Let's see. Pangos. Okay, we're looking at this as 1, 2, 3, but it didn't break the low, so it's part of the correction. And now you have to decide which part of that correction makes sense. I think this would be one impulse here. We get another impulse here. That would be a flat. Go back up 1, 2, 3. Complete this flat and then drop. See? So we're looking at a bigger flat here before we drop. Where we're going to, just part of correcting this again. Same thing, we're correcting this impulse. Take that out. That was the buy. So we're correcting this impulse. I don't think it's complete. I believe we have a lot more to complete. Can we sell this coming down? You're looking at a move this size. What's the range of it? Yeah, that's 122 pips. If you get a flag here, sell it. So if we get a flag in this, we're coming back to this level. I think we're trying to make a move like this down, and then we'll, if we're wrong, they totally break the low. If we're right, they go right back up. So let's put this here, and let's assume you get a sell set up here. If you get a flag here for a sell, that'd be a good one to come to this level and then back up. 1, 2, 3, something like that, back up. This will be the big flat in the middle. And then if you get a flag, if you don't get a flag, don't jump in the trade. Don't assume you know that's the top. Let it prove it's the top. And we will still be in this correction for a while. Selling here is a really bad idea. So let's see if we can get it to the top. Come here, put it to positive, take profit even, watch it go back up, and or watch it drop to the bottom, and good for you. We'll sell again. So this one, we're looking for a small flag to sell. Pumpcat. Yep, this was the sell here. All right, that turned out to be a good one. Some of you took that one, I think, but you might have closed it under the low here, which is not a bad idea. You got another sell here. I think this is ready to go. Let's see this. 1, 2, 3, go back up. Well, it depends on how you look at it. It could be ready to go. You can make an argument. This is 1, 2, 3, and we go back up to 1 more. Could it be that this is making here? This is a 1, 2, 3. You get a 1, 2, 3, come here, and then go back up there and then drop. It's possible. It's very risky if you take a trade. You can't put a stop above the top. You'll have to make sure you have a really large stop above that top. Sell is a good idea. If you want to sell this flag here, and if, well, that's almost gone. Wait for a flag under the low if you want to sell it. Because you can't sell this flat. If you sell that flat, you have to keep a stop here. To be sure, you'll have to have your stop there, above the top of the impulse. It's a really good trade setup though. So if you want to double your risk and take it, because it can come back to the top. If you want to sell under the low and double your risk, don't put your stop here. They'll take you out. Put a stop there. It could come tag you here and go back to the top and then drop. If it does go back to the top, and then you wait for the sell, that's a better idea. So you can do two things. You can either allow it to drop here and make a flag under here and sell that flag, or wait for it to go back to the top and sell this if it does go back to the top. So I'll not put that on, but you have an idea of how you can trade it, right? So if you want to take the risk, go small with the risk, put a smaller lot size, double your risk, go to the top and see how that works. We're in this, good. We're coming down back. We're going to go back up because we're in this one. So you'd have to get a move down back to this level and then a move back to the top and then the drop. It's pretty easy. It's not a hard one. So let this finish and then look for the buy and then look for the sell. Right? Because this would be the B part. This here would be the B part. We had a running flat there. I'll go with the running flat rather than the small flat there. It did break the top. And now it's dropping. It's making this move down. So a little more down and then upside. Take this off. That's just a bigger flat. Aussie CAD. Okay, this turned out to be a contracting flat. It didn't go the high. This one was supposed to go break that up. It didn't. So we'll have to go with this as some kind of a contracting flat here. Because we never broke the top. And it's supposed to go break this top at least. If it didn't break the top, you go with a contracting flat. So this drop, where are we now in the bigger picture? Well, we broke the low, so they can still drop more. Now that we broke that low, also this is useless and this has become useless. We're in a big down move that is really making a new low here. See? So every time they make a new low, right? When you were coming down on this one, every time they make a new low, they break the low, they'll pull back. They come to the low, they pull back. They break the low, they pull back. You're getting some kind of a running flat here, right? I think that's pretty clear. We broke. This is a sharp move up. We're doing the same thing here. We should probably go back up like this, maybe drop again, go back up, drop, and then go back up to the top there for this one, right? Probably come back here and then go. That's the highest. That's the way I think it is, but we'll see. So at the bottom here, if you're going to sell, you have to have a perfect flag or a perfect flat, right? So we don't have it set. But what if it starts to go back up? We'll definitely buy it, right? Because the low, every time they break the low, they tend to go back up. So if we're going to sell anything here, it has to be a perfect setup. If you don't have a perfect setup, wait for the upside. Aussie Swiss. This is breaking the low as expected. I don't know if anybody's in this trade here this morning, but it did make a flat. It made a nice flat there. Can we assume that we got this already, or that is one of its own? We're coming to break this low. And I think we just broke the low already. What's the big picture? It all depends on how you look at this sharp move and this sharp move. And this could be 1, 2, 3 as a correction of its own. And this could be 1, 2, 3 as a correction of its own. And there's a lot of flat at the top there that doesn't make sense. And you have a bigger one in here that doesn't make sense. So I'll go with it this way. This is a 1, 2, 3. This is 1. All of this is correction here. We have to go back up for this one at some point. We're looking at this possibility. And then come back here. So this is the second Aussie pair that has that structure, right? The Aussie CAD has that structure. The Aussie Swiss has that structure. So we would look at a number of Aussie pairs now and see whether that is a dominant structure in it, and then we'll know. So buy setups here would be amazing. Sell setups, not so much. You have to have a perfect flat. This could drop. It needs to break this low so we could drop some more. Wait for a sell setup. There is a small flag here. You could go with whether that is making a running flat. Wait for it to break, make a flag here, and then sell it. If it's a running flat, then it's going to break, make a small flag, and then sell. So you can wait for a flag to sell. New Zealand CAD. We're breaking. We're about to break the low, so there's probably one more trade here if you want. This one worked well. There's another one you can probably get here. That's in a 15, what it looks like. It's kind of coming down already. This is a 1, 2, 3. We're already there. So if it breaks to this low, I have to keep a stop above here for a bigger flat there, you don't want to be taken out. So stop above that. The trade is not that big. All you need to do is break this low. How low it goes after that is, it's anybody's guess. It could go much lower, but that's your guess, right? You'll have to decide that. Once it breaks the low, it qualifies the turn. So if you want that trade, you have to decide whether it's worth the risk. Cat Swiss. Cat Swiss is not going the way we thought it would go. We thought this would drop very sharp. It's coming down really slow. You had a flag here. We thought this was a flag. Turned out, nope, they went up back. So you could make an argument for this as an expanding flat. Yep, that's worth looking at as an expanding flat. So if we get a flag here, we can sell to come back and retest this low. Let's see if we have something that we can sell. Not as yet. Absolutely not as yet, because this is looking like this. And this would probably go back up there. Now, if we get this flat, we can consider the sell. If it makes a flat there, we'll consider the sell. So you can wait for a sell setup. You don't have the setup as yet. Let's go. Natural gas, we're going to go really quick now. You got a sell setup, but you got a sharp move, so you can see whether it makes a bigger flat. This has to go up. This has to go back up, maybe come back down. Maybe go back up, complete this flat, and then drop. Wait for a sell setup. Okay, we can sell this. Any sell we get, we'll take, right? That actually spiked up some more, right? It's going up really sharp. Remember, all these were sharp moves. This was a similar sharp move, right? We were looking for something like that. So any sell setup you get here, we'll take. Even if it's making a correction, this will be a deeper correction, right? So if it's making a correction to the downside, you look for a setup. You wait for a flag. We don't have a flag. Let this make a flag. Let it kind of come back here, make that flat. Take an entry here, put a stop there, go for one drop. If you're lucky, it's a big drop. If you're not so lucky, it's a small drop and it becomes a flat for upside. So we're looking for an aggressive sell setup. I'm not sure how you put an aggressive sell setup. I'll just put sell setups. And this one, I'll put sell setups. Both, right? You're looking for the same thing, sell setups. S&P 500, that dropped really nice. That sell was good. That was a sell there to come down. I didn't think they were going to go that far, right? We just wanted to know how far they're going to go. Well, now we can come back and conclude that actually, yeah, this is the running flat, right? Remember why we put that sell? It's because we thought that this could be the running flat. Go back, watch the webinar, why and how we're doing what we did, right? If it is going to make one more up, then perfect. So, yep, that's the running flat. It's going down. You got a sell setup here. You can take the trade. Wait for the setup. Take this out. And this one, NASDAQ. I didn't think we sold the NASDAQ. We only sold the S&P 500, but there was a sell setup here, right? If you wanted to take the trade, there was a sell setup there. You're going to get another flat here, so you get another sell setup. And it's not finished. It's actually more of a buy now. See this here? Short term, we're making a flat here. Take out all of these. This would most likely be a buy. So you want this to come down here, go back up there, and then you're gonna get this flat for a seller. You want it to pull back deeper and then drop, right? So if it starts to pull back deeper, you can get buy setups. You can literally get a buy setup here, right? Depending on how this turn out, right? This could be a buy setup. If you just come here and you start to go back up, you just pull this here, and that's a buy setup. You can even put it here, right? So there might be short-term buy setups in this. I say let's look for short-term buy setups to make deeper correction. To make deeper correction, we're going to correct this. You're not always going to get such nice small flags that drop. I think you got to be careful with that. So this could be a deeper. If it comes much deeper, look for the sell setups. So I'll just leave them open for both ways, because if this comes deeper, we let it go back up and sell it. It's a nice flat, we'll sell it. And the same thing here. Right? This one actually did pull back, but then still drop. And we were hoping that when this pulled back here, that would take off. It didn't, so take this off. It becomes more of a pullback drop. Let's see what we have here. It's going to come break the low. It's also the big running flat. I think we'll go with the bigger running flat, which is this one. I will go with that as a bigger running flat, which means more downside here. I take this off. That was the buy. And now we look for sell setups here. Next. Good sell if you took it. That running flat worked well. Wait for another flag, sell. Let it make another flag and we sell. Nifty. This didn't go. We're looking at this as a possible flat. It could still go as long as it doesn't come deeper into this, that's still a buy setup, right? So you can still put a buy here, an aggressive buy. And if this comes deeper into this low, take it off. Look for a flat, sell it. Bitcoin. It's coming down. We'll break the low very soon. So there's a lot of advertisement on cryptocurrencies now, like really massive amount of advertisement on cryptos telling you how you can become a millionaire. I think the people who are driving this, some people who are driving this wants it to go up and they want you to buy now, but I think it's too early to buy. Let this break the low, right? So when it breaks the low, then we'll start to look for the upside and then we'll see whether it's actually gonna go up, right? There's still a lot of possibilities in this, especially with this sharp wave here. With that, this opens the possibility to go here, go back up there, test this, make a big flat drop again. Right? It has the potential of not going up now. We'll still buy this. That will give us an exit strategy. We bought this, remember, we bought that. That gives you an exit strategy. If that takes off, well, good for us. I don't think it will. So someone was asking whether we could see 12,000. I think it's possible. I wouldn't exclude 12,000. I wouldn't even exclude lower than 12,000. I wouldn't even exclude coming back to about, 5,000 even before we go back up. See? So that is why you wait for the lows if you want to invest in this long term. This is going to drop. I think we can see that this is going to drop here. This could go back up. This could go back up here and then drop again and then go, which is Bitcoin might make that running flat we're thinking of, right? If this is going to be a regular flat, Bitcoin will be a running flat. This area is going to drop and break the low. We're about to break that low. And the question is, how low would it go before it goes back up, right? How low it's going to go into this. So on the 4 hour, we're about to break the low. Yeah, it will break the low, probably come up a little more here and then drop. So once we break that low, the question is, well, how low would it go into this low? How much more is it going to come into this price before it goes back up? And let's see, XRP. XRP is going to make a running flat here. I think we can assume that this is going to be a flat here. It's probably going to come here, but then there's a good chance you're going back up from there. At least break the top. So we'll see. It did pull back pretty deep in this one, but it's going very aggressive now. So, but remember, this was the low. So if this wants to go up from here, it can go up. Pull back first and then go up, break the top, and then we see what happens when it breaks the top. And when it breaks the top, it could still drop. But the buy might be possible. A buy with an exit strategy might be possible, right? So if it comes back to this level, we can take the buy. If we get a buy setup, we'll take the buy to break the top and put it to break even. LTC? It's going to drop. It's going up a little more, maybe retest this top and then drop. This one is already set to go. This might still drop slowly or make a sharp pullback like that for a running flat and then drop. That's possible. But it's going down. We don't have any buy setups. You don't have any buy setups here. You don't have any buy setups here. Short-term sell, if you're selling them good enough, you know what you're doing. That will depend a lot on which broker you're in and how you trade. This also short-term downside, but the bigger picture is this would have to pull back, right? This is the sharp wave in it. So all of this coming down will have to go back up at some point and then drop. And let's see this. Downside, I don't think we will use it. We were looking for a running flat with this, but you can go back and put this as the running flat. You can use this as the running flat easily. You can make an argument for that as the running flat there. That makes sense. You can put this as the running flat with this one. Also would make sense. So any number of them you can use to the running flat makes sense. So this is more downside than upside. And Dash is more downside than upside. Dash is pretty clear. It's going to break the low. What happens when it breaks the low? Nothing much. It just break the low and wait for the turning point, right? It will break this low also. So when you break that low, you break this, so you break all of them, then we look for upside. See how that goes. So guys, thank you for your time. I'm still hoping that some of you find the 1 minute you need to go share that video and put a comment on it. If you don't, no big deal. If you're very busy, don't worry about it. So thank you very much. I would see all of you later in the London session, and then we will take a break. Today is very, very quiet. After the London session, we might even not do a New York session. New York market will be closed. There's no sense trading in a closed market. So the last session we might get today is a London session. And then you guys will have a great day. I don't think you should trade in the closing market. The risk is too high. If there's going to be any spike, it's tag you reverse really quick. So I would see all of you in a couple hours, right? In about an hour. What time is it now? It's 9. It's pretty okay. Let me stop the recording first. Stop recording.